The childhood of Björn remains a mystery, but much is known about his courage and bravery. Born at some point in the 9th century, Björn Ragnarsson was the son of the great king Ragnar Lothbrok and his wife, Aslog. From a young age, Björn displayed himself as a fearless warrior, a true offspring of the legendary king. His reputation was solidified during an epic battle, where Björn proved himself to be a genuine hero. That day would be remembered as the day when young Björn would become known as Björn Ironside. Alongside his half-brothers, Fridleif and Ragnvald, and his father, King Ragnar, Björn confronted the rebellious King Saul of Sweden and his army. Saul's terms were simple: a full-scale battle or a duel. Instead of sacrificing numerous lives, Björn's father opted for the duel, a battle that would be engraved in history as one of the most thrilling and blood-soaked. King Saul selected a warrior from his own army as his champion, accompanied by his 7 sons. Ragnar, on the other hand, chose only his own sons for the duel. The armies watched in ecstasy as the combatants clashed with astonishing ferocity. The fight was intense, and Björn stood out for his courage and strength. He appeared as a god of war, his sharp sword cleaving through the enemies as if they were butter. The victory was glorious, and Björn was hailed as the hero of the battle. He did not suffer a single injury, and it is said that he inflicted great slaughter upon his enemies. With the blood still pulsing in his veins, Björn led his army into the final battle against Saul and his men. No mercy was shown that day, for the wrath of the gods had been unleashed. With the duel's victory, Ragnar was emboldened to attack and slay King Saul. Björn and his brothers joined him, leading the final charge that resulted in the utter annihilation of the enemy. That day would be forever remembered as one of the most thrilling and blood-soaked in history. And Björn, the young warrior who became a legendary hero, was rewarded with lordship over Sweden for his courage and bravery in battle. He proved himself to truly be a rightful son of the legendary King Ragnar Lothbrok. Björn was summoned to fight alongside his brothers in the battle on behalf of his father, Ragnar. Together, they plundered Orkney and invaded Scottish territory, facing a relentless army in a bloody battle that lasted 3 whole days. The scent of death hung in the air as Björn and his brothers fought with all their might, ultimately slaying King Muriel. When Björn returned to his own kingdom, he had no idea what fate had in store for him. After many expeditions, he received the devastating news of his father Ragnar's death at the hands of King Alla. The shock was so profound that he squeezed the dice in his hand so tightly that his fingers bled and drops of blood fell onto the table. In a fit of rage, he exclaimed, "Fate is more capricious than these dice I am rolling." Björn and his brothers set out for Northumbria with a fleet of 400 ships, thirsting for revenge. The war against King Alla was openly declared, and the desire for vengeance was palpable in every Viking warrior. When Björn met his brother Ivar the Boneless, their forces united to form a mighty pagan army, ready to fight to the death. History would remember them as one of the most feared armies of all time, the Great Heathen Army. Björn and Ivar confronted the enemy with fury in their eyes and a burning desire for revenge. They fought bravely and crushed King Alla's forces in a blood-soaked frenzy. The carnage they left in their wake was terrifying, but victory was all that mattered. Björn and his brothers ordered the execution of King Alla, sparing no effort to make his death even more agonizing. The ritual of the Blood Eagle left the Vikings satisfied, and they reveled in feasting upon the disfigured king's flesh, celebrating the end of their most relentless enemy. The spirit of their father Ragnar would finally rest, knowing that his sons had avenged his death. Björn returned to his kingdom, but his mind was restless. He heard tales of distant lands that were rich in gold and basked in year-round sunshine. Curious and drawn to the prospect of plundering new treasures, Björn set sail for the Mediterranean with his brother Hvitserk. They raided the Spanish coast, besieged Gibraltar, and advanced into southern France, where they spent the winter. Their journey continued, and Björn pushed forward toward Pisa, successfully sacking the city. He then heard of the sacred city of Rome and could not resist the opportunity to plunder the heart of Christianity. However, the distance Björn believed he was from Rome was much greater than reality. When he and his army arrived at the city of Luna, they believed they had reached Rome and began to besiege it. The siege dragged on, and the city walls seemed impassable. Björn was eager to enter the city but needed a plan. He had a brilliant idea and concocted a clever ruse. He instructed his men to spread a rumor of his death and expressed a desire to be buried in consecrated ground within the city, with a Christian burial. The Bishop of Luna did not want to deny Björn a Christian burial and allowed his coffin to be escorted by a small honor guard. When his coffin was placed inside the church, Björn surprised everyone by leaping out of the coffin and breaking through the gates, allowing his army to enter and plunder the entire city. With each victory, Björn's heart swelled with courage, and he launched more raids, unafraid to face any enemy. But upon returning from Spain, the warrior did not anticipate that Arab rulers would be waiting for him with a formidable Saracen fleet. Björn and his men fought valiantly, but the enemy fleet was relentless and unleashed Greek fire upon them, a substance similar to napalm and unknown to the Vikings. It was a terrible battle in which Björn lost 40 of his ships and most of the spoils, but he managed to escape with his life. With morale shaken, he plundered the Christian parts of Spain to restore his men's confidence and morale. Finally, Björn returned to Scandinavia with great plunder, fulfilling an age-old dream. There, he lived out the rest of his days as a wealthy man, proud of his achievements. His legacy was even more grand, as he founded the House of Monceau and ruled over Sweden for several generations. His sons, Refil and Erik Björnsson, became the next kings of Sweden, following in their father's footsteps. Regarding Björn's death, there are no records in the sagas, and the last mention of him in the saga The Sons of Ragnar is before his return to Scandinavia after several expeditions in France. However, the most accepted version is that after his many expeditions, Björn returned to Scandinavia and died as a wealthy man. The exact cause of his death is uncertain, but historians believe that he may have died of old age or from some illness. It is believed that Björn was buried in a mound known as the Tomb of Björn Ironside. Standing 5 meters tall and 20 meters wide, the site is located in Lake Mälaren, Sweden. The ancient dynasty, known as the House of Monceau, was named in honor of the island where Björn Ironside was buried, in a tomb crowned by a stone with a runic inscription. Björn Ironside was a legendary Viking warrior of the 9th century who became known for leading expeditions to the east, plundering and conquering lands along the way. His life and legacy are celebrated in various Norse sagas and historical texts, but it is difficult to distinguish reality from legend in many cases. According to some sagas, he led an expedition to the east with an army of warriors, reaching places such as Finland, Estonia, and Russia. Other sagas claim that Björn sailed through the Mediterranean and even reached the African coast. While many of the stories about Björn Ironside may be considered legends, his figure remains important to the history of the Vikings and to understanding the Scandinavian culture and society of the time. The Vikings were a powerful force in medieval Europe, and their conquests and military tactics influenced many other cultures. The figure of Björn Ironside represents the popular image of the brave and ruthless Viking, and his legend continues to inspire many to this day. Today, we discuss the most courageous and warrior son of the Viking legend, King Ragnar Lothbrok. Björn Ironside etched his name in history with immense bravery and determination, as we learn throughout the video. So, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, consider subscribing to receive future videos, as we still have more of Ragnar's sons whose stories deserve to be told. We'll see you in the next video. So, see you there?